I'm Elex Michelson. This week, the issue is California's mass shootings. We go one-on-one with Governor Gavin Newsom in the streets of Monterey Park. Then, Congressman Adam Schiff announces his run for U.S. Senate on our show. And California's first partner, Jennifer Siebel Newsom, showcases a national model for mental health. The issue is starts right now.
Broadcasting across California, you're watching The Issue Is.
And welcome to The Issue Is. I'm Elex Michelson. This week, our state was rocked by a series of mass shootings. We were with Governor Gavin Newsom as he tried to himself process what's happening here and console a community in pain.
As soon as news broke about the mass shooting in Monterey Park, Governor Gavin Newsom drove south from Sacramento to spend 2 days here comforting victims. We spoke in the middle of that process.
How do you make somebody feel better in a moment like this?
By trying to do better, by acknowledging with humility that we haven't done enough, that we have agency, and that we can shape things, and we can do better, and we have the tools. And I think that's the best I can do, because you can't explain this away, because people are feeling that pain. They don't care who's to blame at the moment. They care about what the hell are we going to do to end this.
Governor says the White House reached out shortly after the gunfire.
What did the president say to you?
Give me people to call. I mean, that says everything you need about the President of the United States.
Vice President Kamala Harris visiting the scene this week to lay flowers.
To understand we need reasonable gun safety laws in our country.
Harris and Newsom separately meeting with Brandon Say, who wrestled the gun away from the shooting suspect in Alhambra.
President Biden.
Well, I wanted to call to see how you're doing and thank you for taking such incredible action in face of danger.
While meeting with other victims in Monterey Park, Newsom got word of another mass shooting, this one in Half Moon Bay. The next day, the governor was there, meeting with even more victims of violence.
What the hell is going on? You doing all right?
In Monterey Park, Newsom chose to walk the streets instead of speaking at press conferences. He'll never forget his experience at the local hospitals.
Going to the hospital first, to put all this in perspective. It's one thing to intellectualize, it's another to spend time with elected officials and other experts, providing me updates. It's another to see the human costs, not just for the person that's sitting in the ICU that can't communicate, or the young man that I did have the opportunity who survived, but his leg was shattered, but also to meet their family, to meet mom, who is a translator in Cantonese, and meet the young son, and absorb what really happened from that perspective, not from the perspective of what we express through the usual back and forth.
And what did you say to them, and what did they say to you?
I didn't say much. I listened. But I think, like I've said, both of us have spent a lot of time doing this. I think the most extraordinary thing was visiting that young man who's going to recover. And the first thing he said to me is how many days I'm going to be in here. And I immediately asked the doctor to come in. And it wasn't for medical reasons he was asking, financial. He said, I can't afford to be here. I got to get out of here. I don't have the money. And then the next question he asked is, what can I do tomorrow? I'm supposed to be at work. Those are the first two questions out of his mouth. And then his young son comes in and the mom comes in, expressing similar anxiety. And that's a hell of a thing. A guy who was just shot, who's lucky to be alive, who lost a loved one. He mentioned someone that was shot right in the head, right next to him. And he was worried about paying the damn bills. And so, as a governor, that's a lot more impactful than with love and respect, going in front of a press conference with 35 other people. And expressing myself. My mom used to remind me this as a kid, seek first to understand before you're understood. And that's what I've done the last 2 days, just knocking on doors, walking the streets, and having just real engagement with people and listening.
What have you learned from them?
How extraordinarily resilient the community is. I mean, that's self-evident. How scared people are, not just about this incident, but what preceded this incident. 2 years of COVID, all the anti-Asian hate, all the racial priming we hear from our elected officials sometimes of both stripes. And now this, on a day universally everyone said was supposed to be the happiest day of the year, and the year where we finally were able to take a deep breath after 2 years of COVID.
So obviously this doesn't follow all the patterns that we see for a lot of mass shootings. This wasn't sort of a young guy with a history of mental illness. This was an older person. This wasn't necessarily anti-Asian hate in the way that we've seen in the past. But still, from a public policy perspective, are there takeaways for you in terms of guns or other things that we can learn from this?
Yeah, the one thing that absolutely is consistent in common is large capacity clips. I mean, these just weapons of mass destruction and devastation that somehow we've been complicit in allowing on our streets across this country over and over and over again. It's the one thing that we have in common. Everyone looks to scapegoat something or something else that doesn't believe in gun safety or gun control. That's the one thing that just, it's inexplicable at the core. We say that everything about it's so rote and cliche. We all say it's inexplicable. This can't continue to happen. What about our kids? Isn't this time the last time? When are we going to grow up? What's going to happen in Congress? Can't we get something done? And it's just rhetoric and redundancy on top of rhetoric and redundancy that will drive anyone insane. And so I guess the best we can do here is what we can do. What can we control? How do we control the controllables? And that is California's led the nation in gun safety debate. California's led the nation in gun safety policy. California will continue to do that. We'll look at every angle of what happened and what didn't happen, why this illegal weapon, or at least attachments to the weapon, appear to have been in this person's possession. What can we do better going forward? With humility, we'll look at all those facts and we'll adjudicate the facts. And there's no determination whether this was anti-hate or I mean, it's not a monolith, the Asian community. Maybe it's also an opportunity. Let's get educated, America. Asian community, by no stretch of the imagination, is a monolith. Different ethnicities, different languages, profoundly diverse community. And one that's been under assault. I mean, 340% increase in anti-Asian hate in 2021. And maybe we can sober up and reconcile our responsibility to fix this.
I know President Obama, after Newtown, was more frustrated by that than any other story in his entire presidency. The issue of mass shootings frustrated him more because he felt like there was so much that couldn't be done. For you personally, I mean, is this one of the most frustrating things, having to do this over and over again?
I guess the frustration is different for us. You know, I've had the privilege of being a mayor, which led back when our DA was Kamala Harris. We did a lot of gun safety. We advanced a lot of gun safety policies. Lieutenant Governor, I did a ballot initiative, background checks on ammunition, not just guns, a ban on large capacity magazine clips. California has led. I guess my frustration is how we're seeing a lot of that leadership erode with hardcore right-wing zealots in the judiciary. Judge Nelson, Judge Benitez, that are rolling back this progress. The assault weapons ban's been around since '89, is under assault by these judges. Large capacity magazine clip that 21 or older can't buy a beer, but you can buy a long gun. Judge Nelson decides to throw that out. That progress is in peril. And that frustrates me at a different level as governor of California. As an American, absolutely assign myself or align myself with the president that we're as dumb as we want to be as a nation. And this is happening on our watch, and we own this. And we are complicit because we've chosen this reality. We've chosen it. We're not compelled to live in this world that we're living in. We've chosen this world. And that indifference and that decision to put our kids at risk, where the #1 cause of death in America was guns, to our children, it just shows you how bankrupt some of the rhetoric is in this country and how much work we have to do.
Up next, Congressman Adam Schiff gives us his first interview about his run for the U.S. Senate.
I've always believed that what's right matters, that the truth matters.
This week, Congressman Adam Schiff made it official. It's something we've long expected, that he is running for the U.S. Senate. He's hoping to replace Senator Dianne Feinstein. He is the second major candidate to announce a run for 2024 after Irvine Congresswoman Katie Porter. This is his first interview since making that announcement. Congressman, congrats on the run. Welcome back to The Issue Is, and thanks for doing this with us.
It's great to be with you and great to make the announcement on your show.
So why are you doing this?
I'm running for the U.S. Senate from California because I think we're in the fight of our lives to preserve our democracy and to build an economy that works for everyone. These two challenges are really intertwined. The fact that too many Californians, too many Americans see their quality of life in decline, that their quality of life is less than their parents enjoyed, and they have profound worries about their children, has made all too many people open to a demagogue who comes along and promises that he alone can fix it. I want to attack these problems as I have in the House. I think the Senate will give me an even more powerful way to represent Californians and all Americans in this existential struggle to preserve our democracy, but also to build an economy that works for everyone, so that everyone can enjoy the American dream, everyone can have a roof over their head, access to quality health care, food on the table. These are the issues that I've championed, along with making sure we take care of the existential challenge of all, and that is our planet. And I look forward to championing these issues in the U.S. Senate.
You know, it's not a huge surprise that you're doing this, but the timing of all this is interesting. We spoke a few weeks ago, and you suggested that you wanted to give Senator Dianne Feinstein time to make a potential announcement about her future. She has not made a public announcement yet. I'm wondering if she's made a private announcement with you. Have you spoken to her before doing this?
Yes, I've spoken to her a number of times, including within the last 24 to 48 hours, to keep her abreast of what I'm doing every step of the way. I have a very close relationship with Senator Feinstein, great respect for her. She has served as the top Democrat on the Intelligence Committee in the Senate while I had the same role in the House. So we've worked together closely for years, and I wanted to make sure that everything I did was respectful of her and her service. And so, yes, I've kept her apprised, including very recently, of my intention to announce the campaign.
So what did she say to you when you told her that you were going to run?
She said that she had not made a decision about her own plans, that she would make the announcement when she was ready to do so. I think she's earned the right to do that according to her own timing, but she was more than comfortable with my announcing. I wouldn't be doing that without that kind of blessing, and I want to make sure that everything I do is respectful to her.
We know that Congresswoman Katie Porter has already announced that she's running. When I asked her to describe herself in one word, she said fighter. She talked about some of the differences between the two of you. What do you see as the biggest, most important difference for voters if they're evaluating you versus Katie Porter?
Well, I'll just speak to my own record. I think through all the significant fights for our democracy over the last several years, I've been in the center of them. As a member of the January 6th committee to expose what went into that attack on our democracy and the former president's role in leading the first impeachment of the president, and conducting the investigations of his misconduct, his Russia misconduct, his Ukraine misconduct, and the incitement of that insurrection. So I've been in the center of these fights, not on the sideline. And California expects someone who's going to be a leader, who's going to be in the middle of the fight.
Are you suggesting that she hasn't been in those fights, or not the center of them?
I don't want to comment about anyone else. I'm running on my record,
Sure.
not against anyone. We are rivals under the same flag here. Mm-hmm. But I do think that what California has come to expect in its senators are people who are in the middle of the fight, and that's exactly where I've been, and that's exactly where I'll continue to be.
Let's talk about the current job you're in. For years, we've been talking to you as the chairman of the House Intelligence Committee. Speaker McCarthy just pulled you from the Intelligence Committee. Here's what he had to say about you.
What Adam Schiff did, use his power as a chairman and lie to the American public. Even the Inspector General said it. When Gavin Newsom put out a memo, he said it was false. When we had a laptop, he used it before an election to be politics and say that it was false and said it was the Russians, when he knew different. When a whistleblower came forward, he said he did not know the individual, even though his staff had met with him and set it up. So no, he does not have a right to sit on that. But I will not be like Democrats and play politics with these, where they removed Republicans from committees and all committees. So yes, he can serve on a committee, but he will not serve on Intel, because it goes to the national security of America.
So he says you lied about Trump's connections to Russia, that you overblew that story. You can't be trusted. Why is he wrong?
Well, look, you don't have to take my word for it. The Washington Post just gave Ken McCarthy 4 Pinocchios, their biggest rating for the biggest falsehood in connection with his justification for removing me from the Intelligence Committee. But this is Ken McCarthy. He will say anything. He will do anything. In this case, what he's really doing is he's appeasing the Marjorie Taylor Greens, the Paul Gosars, the Donald Trumps, who have a vendetta because I held them accountable. Because I impeached, their party leader and obtained the first bipartisan vote for conviction in a Senate trial in U.S. history. I'm proud of that work. I'm proud of that work. I'll continue to do it. And if Kevin McCarthy thinks that these smears or insults are going to stop me, he's going to find out differently. And I think Californians are going to respond to Mr. McCarthy by saying, you know what? We'd like to make Adam Schiff Ken McCarthy's home state senator. That will be a proper response to, sadly, a elected official from California, Ken McCarthy, who doesn't represent the best interests of our state or our country.
This has been such a heavy week here in California, but let's end with something fun because we always like to do that. We are honoring Barbara Walters on this show. Of course, she's one of the great journalists of all time, the best TV interviews, and we are asking 3 of her favorite questions as we look at Barbara Walters. So these are quick answers. First thing that comes to mind to sort of get to know you as we all look at you now statewide on this Senate run. All right, you ready? So,
ready.
What is your motto or philosophy?
My motto or philosophy comes from Micah. What is required of us but to do justice, to love mercy, and walk humbly with thy God. I think that is the best injunction for any elected official. So if I were going to look at something to live by, I would turn to that passage in Micah.
L'chaim. What is the biggest misconception about you?
That I'm serious all the time. In fact, I love to joke around. I do an annual comedy night for my campaign where I actually do stand up. I know that's very hard to believe. And among my favorite films, The Big Lebowski.
What is Adam Schiff, the stand-up comedian, like?
I'm telling you, you'll have to ask the audience, but some of the professionals have said that I could give them a run for their money.
Okay, well, invite us to that. I'd love to do that story. And then finally, finish this sentence. Adam Schiff is...
running for the United States Senate, and he wants your vote.
There we go. We end where we began. Adam Schiff, congrats on the run. We'll see you on the campaign trail. Thanks so much for announcing here on The Issue Is.
Thank you. My pleasure.
Up next, California's first partner, Siebel Newsom. We'll be right back. At a National Governors Association event this week in Santa Monica, California's first partner, Siebel Newsom, announcing a $100 million state investment on the issue of mental health. And she invited us on an exclusive tour.
Health and wellness.
California's first partner, Siebel Newsom, tours the mental wellness program at Santa Monica High. She says it's one of the most impressive programs in the country.
Santa Monica High School is a model that's doing really great work.
She meets with senior Ryan Sly, who gets weekly free therapy here.
It's like a place where I can open up and talk about my feelings.
Ryan is one of hundreds of students here accepting mental health help.
Therapy's helped me open up a lot.
And you realize there is somebody listening.
Yeah.
And you feel heard and seen?
Yeah.
All students on campus are offered free one-on-one weekly therapy, group therapy sessions, or drop-in sessions if they're having a tough day.
I never realized about the support I had at school.
Senior Samantha Ramirez says she was scared of therapy until a classmate's words one day left her in tears and in the nurse's office.
She sat with me. I was just sobbing that day, and she handed me a little bar and then some water, and then that's when she offered me the services that they offer at school. I guess I never realized how much it really does help to have someone listen to you and someone you can speak to.
Hi, Jennifer Phil Murphy.
On this day, Newsom is showcasing this program to the National Governors Association, whose national conference in Santa Monica is focused on youth mental health.
And they're just freely available for students.
Colorado Governor Jared Polis and New Jersey's Governor Phil Murphy are both impressed.
But we always want to share kind of what works and best practices.
I've already got some food for thought on
how we can apply some of this back in New Jersey.
California Governor Gavin Newsom was supposed to be here, but instead had to travel to Half Moon Bay to deal with yet another mass shooting. His wife is here, representing the state, and talking to her own kids about these difficult mental health issues.
How, as a mom, do you talk to your kids about these mass shootings?
Great question. We're in this together. We have to kind of meet kids where they're at and be delicate too in the conversations, because you don't want to scare children and you want them to feel safe. But it's really important that we acknowledge everyone's feelings right now.
For Ryan, there's a lesson here.
Don't be afraid to ask for help.
When we come back, remembering the lives lost this week. Over the course of my career, I've covered at least 10 major mass shootings in 7 different states. At every site, you realize there is so much more good than bad in the world. Yes, there's always an evil gunman, but there's also always far more heroes. Brandon Say, who stopped this gunman in Alhambra, is the perfect example. But there are plenty more examples who don't get national attention or a call from the president. I'm talking about the first responders, the doctors, the community members who sacrificed themselves when they were most needed, or were simply there with kindness at a moment of great pain. So we end this week with a tribute to all of them. I'm Elex Michelson, and I am proud to be a part of this beautiful community.